drug-induced condition.
In a moment, you'll meet Dr Terry Goldsworthy, 28 years a police officer and a criminologist, who's also concerned about how quickly a grey market in capsicum spray could develop in the NT. He's also got tips on how to make yourself safer without opening yourself up to legal jeopardy. 1300 057 222, text in on 0487 991057. Will carrying capsicum spray on your run make you safer or overconfident? Now, COVID did many things, but it converted me to hand sanitizer. Are you still on board? Is sanitising now part of Australian culture? You'll hear from someone who always has sanitizer on their person and an expert who says, no, it's almost impossible for you to sanitise too much. And it's festival time. Put the Dominmin Festival in your diary a month to go. What can we expect at Lambles Lagoon this July? Pepper spray to the public announced this week in the middle of budget estimates a trial due to start in September. It'd make the NT the second jurisdiction to sell pepper spray, capsicum spray, OC spray to civilians after WA. But there are legal complexities to work out. In WA, it's a controlled weapon and self-defence isn't always a defence. And one organisation whose members are trained to use capsicum spray before they're supplied it for their job is the NT Police Association. NTPA President Nathan Finn is less than thrilled with the idea and has a lot of questions, as he told Adam Steer yesterday morning.
I'm interested to hear from the government and hear from the police. The police did reach out to me yesterday asking for a meeting to discuss what was being proposed. Again, it's scheduled for a trial. We've got some serious concerns. Our members have got some serious concerns. We don't want to rock up to incidents where OC spray is going to be used potentially on our members and place them at further harm.
Yeah, the Northern Territory government says it'll be a diluted version of the pepper spray that your officers carry around.
Diluted or otherwise, having used OC spray on a number of occasions, the effect on people varies from a range. It opens up mucus glands, has people feeling that they're being choked. There's some medical interactions that you have with these members. And again, sometimes it escalates the situation as well. That doesn't take effect on the person. You don't get it in the right contact zone on the person. There's a number of factors that are concerned for members deploying OC spray.
Dr Terry Goldsworthy is Associate Professor in Criminal Justice and Criminology at Bond University in Queensland. He's also a former Detective Inspector in the Queensland Police Force and was head of CIB at Burleigh Heads on the Gold Coast as a Detective Sergeant. Dr Goldsworthy, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
NT Police, their association, they're concerned about pepper spray, diluted or not, in the hands of the public. Are you?
Yeah, look, I think there's a number of questions that need to be answered before you'd be comfortable with this being rolled out. You know, I think there's been a lack of consultation by the sounds of that interaction there with the Police Association representative and the government or the senior officers of the police. I thought something like this might have needed more consultation to get those wide views in terms of whether it was appropriate or not. The other thing I find, perplexing is the government in their media releases talking about a low percentage OC spray for self-defence. And then there's kind of the argument is, if someone got it and used it on the police, it'd be low level, so it wouldn't be a problem. Well, then how effective will it be for self-defence? You can't have it both ways. Either it's going to be effective for the public to use and stop a criminal. You then can't argue, if someone gets used against the police, it won't really hurt them. It's either one or the other. So it seems to be a bit misleading there. In terms of, the talking about giving it to approved members of the public, well, what does that mean? There's a lot of grey areas that aren't too clearly outlined in that media release that came out.
How likely is the scenario Nathan Finn is suggesting there, one of his members being sprayed in the face by a member of the public?
Well, that all goes to what regulations would be around it, like who is an approved person, who can get it, how they've got to store it, and how secure is that storage. If you have a high rate of break and enters and people are leaving it in their houses, I think if someone breaks in and comes across it, they're obviously going to take it. So I don't think it's far-fetched to expect that the police may come into contact with it. A criminal who gets it may use it for the purpose of facilitating crime rather than preventing crime. So, These things need to be considered very carefully. Looking at other jurisdictions and what's happened there would be useful. I mean, I can understand that, a woman running down the road early in the morning when it's still dark would feel much more comfortable with it. But, are these people who are approved going to get any training in relation to the appropriate way to use it? And in what circumstances it would be effective and not effective? If there's a strong wind and they blow it, it may blow back in their own face and be totally useless and render them helpless and turn in front of the attacker. So, I mean, these were all things that need to be planned out prior to this could roll out in any form or shape.
You're listening to 105.7 ABC Radio Darwin. Rick Hind with you. Dr Terry Goldsworthy is Associate Professor in Criminal Justice and Criminology at Bond University. Terry, we've seen a rapid acceleration in the number of occupations able to use this spray in recent years in the Northern Territory. When it was introduced to transit officers, security guards a couple of years ago, there was a lot of discussion about how much training they get to use it. What can happen if you don't get that training?
Well, if you don't get the training, it's problematic in terms of using it. I mean, it's classified as a controlled weapon. In many jurisdictions, it's restricted for that reason because it has significant dangers attached to it in the way that someone can react. And I mean, everyone can react in a different manner to when they're exposed to OC spray. So not only as part of the training, what do you do when you use it, but there's also the aftercare component of OC spray usage where, you render care to the person who's been disabled by the spray. So, I mean, if they're going to allow to be approved members, I would expect that there would have to be some kind of training certificate or training given to say that this person is capable of using it. I mean, otherwise I think it's going to be highly problematic for people carrying it and people who are exposed to it in what circumstances. So there's a lot of, I think, regulations need to be sorted out here. I mean, they referenced the WA model over there. I'm not sure what training they give to people over there. But even in WA, it's been problematic in terms of a lot of varying legal decisions as to when it's appropriate to use it and have it in public. And, it's not necessarily just there for self-defence. So it depends how the regulations are worded in the Northern Territory as well as to when people will be able to take it out and when they'll be able to use it.
And I understand you've mentioned there, police have an obligation to provide assistance after they've sprayed someone. But would that happen if someone sprayed another person who they fear is a possible assailant? When that happens and the sprayee gets into health trouble, how much legal jeopardy could that person be who's sprayed a stranger?
Well, that's a bit like a black hole, isn't it? What happens in that case? What happens in that case if you spray someone, they get into difficulty, they have an asthma attack, they die, whatever the circumstances may be, and then it turns out that you didn't actually have grounds to use it. I mean, so it really is, you can open up a can of worms in relation to what might happen. I mean, I guess they're saying, well, it's only going to be a low percentage OC spray, so the necessity of providing aftercare isn't as great. Well, you just don't know that because every person is a variable that you can't allow for by making a generic assumption.
What other options are available to people to protect themselves? You've given the classic example of a woman running alone at night and feeling more secure with pepper spray. Whether that actually makes them safer is another question because that could change your perception of risk. But what could they do in those circumstances that are legal now?
Yeah, well, I mean, having the OC spray is I guess, a form of crime prevention. It's a bit like CCTV, putting CCTV up where you have high crime areas. It's only really going to work if you look at the, pepper spray or CCTV. The offender would have to make an assumption, has that person got OC spray? Am I concerned about them using it? I mean, if they're not worried about that, then the OC spray will have no effect whatever, and you're correct, the person who has it may have less risk perception of their exposure to crime. In terms of what other protections they can take, if you're going to run in that kind of situation, it's called situational awareness, and you need to be aware of your situation and how does that increase your risk exposure to becoming a victim of crime. If we look at what I call the crime triangle, you have a motivated offender, a suitable victim, and then you have a lack of guardianship. So guardianship can be such things as running in a group. So instead of one person, you run with another person. So there's two of you. You run where there is good street lighting if you're running in the early morning when it's still dark, or where there's a good traffic flow. So there's other people around who may act as some kind of crime prevention measure. So there are things that you can do in terms of that. You can undergo self-defence training if you think that would be effective for you. But have a mobile phone, have your tracking app on so someone else knows exactly where you are and what you're doing, so you can contact someone if you feel threatened. There are other steps you can take to try and improve or lessen the risk of you becoming someone who looks like a victim that they want to attack.
There were calls for pepper spray to be made available, petitions after the Bondi stabbings in Sydney, but New South Wales hasn't gone down that path. What are the risks for the NT here, having pepper spray, as you say, initially sold to the public, but also possibly more widespread in the community? Well,
look, I mean, OC spray is not always effective. I've seen plenty of people be sprayed with OC spray and they continue to attack police officers. So if you're getting a low percentage OC spray, that's highly likely to occur even more regularly with the spray that they're talking about. So it is not a given that it will stop someone in their tracks. It may disorientate them slightly or may have no effect whatsoever on a particular person, especially if they're in some kind of drug-induced condition. So I think that's problematic. In terms of OC spray, like firearms, for instance, we have a grey market of firearms where we have firearms that are stolen, etc., and then used for criminal purposes. So I think the concerns raised by the Police Association are valid, depending on how much of this material is issued, how many people are approved, what circumstances they must keep it in, how secure that is. You could have circumstances where considerable amounts of OC spray make their way into the grey market and are available for criminals to use to affect crime. So there are a number of concerns around it, and I can understand those concerns.
Dr Terry Goldsworthy is Associate Professor in Criminal Justice and Criminology at Bond University in Queensland. Thanks so much for exploring some of the issues that we might need to wrestle with before this trial in September. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Powering planes with our crops? Can Australia make jet fuel from oilseeds?
There are big advantages, and it's definitely not a case of food versus fuel. It's food and fuel.
That's Landline, Sunday 12:30 on ABC TV and iView.
What did you think of what Dr Terry Goldsworthy, 28 years a police officer, detective inspector in Queensland, dealt with a fair bit of pepper spray activity while he was a police officer? He's a criminologist now at Bond University, about some of the issues that are raised by selling pepper spray to members of the community.